Hi, my name's Nick, I'm a maths tutor, and today we're going to go through Edexcel GCSE Maths, paper 2H from 2020. Let's give it a go. Write 84 as a product of its prime factors. So we write out a factor tree, and we do 84 divided by 2, and that gives us 42. Then 42 divides into 2 and 21, and then 21 divides into 3 and 7. So therefore, as a product of its prime factors, 84 is 2 squared times 3 times 7. Find the lowest common multiple of 60 and 84. So we just found 84, so now we just need to look at 60. We can divide that into 5 and 12, and then that's 2 and 6, and then 6 divides into 3 and 2. So for 84, we have 2 squared times 3 times 7 from the first part, and then 60 is 2 squared times 3 times 5, which means the lowest common multiple is going to be 2 squared, because we have 2 squared in both, 3 because we have 3 in both, and then we have 7 and 5, because 84 has 7 and 60 has 5, and we need to make sure we have at least one of each. So 2 squared times 3 times 7 times 5 gives us 420, which is our final answer. Complete the Venn diagram for this information. So what we have here is the numbers from 1 to 10, and then A is even numbers and B is factors of 10. So the even numbers between 1 and 10 are going to be 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. The factors of 10 are going to be 1, 2, 5 and 10. So looking at these numbers, we can see 2 and 10 are both common to A and B, which means they go in the intersection in the middle. And then that leaves us with 1 and 5 for the rest of B and 4, 6 and 8 for the rest of A. Then we're missing 9, 3 and 7, so we just put them outside of A or B. Next, a number is chosen at random from the universal set. Find the probability that this number is in the set A intersect B. So as we just said earlier, the A intersect B has 2 numbers within it, 2 and 10. The universal set has 10 numbers in it, which means that 2/10 of the numbers are going to be in that intersection in the middle. Therefore, 1/5 is the probability that this number is in A intersect B. Carlo puts tins into small boxes and into large boxes. He puts 6 tins into each small box. He puts 20 tins into each large box. Carlo puts a total of 3,000 tins into the boxes, so that the number of tins in small boxes as a ratio to the number of tins in large boxes is 2 to 3. Carlo says that less than 30% of the boxes filled with tins are large boxes. Is Carlo correct? You must show all your working. Right, so we start with 2 plus 3, which is 5, because that's the ratio of the number of tins in small boxes to the number of tins in large boxes. If we divide 3,000 by 5, we get 600. So we multiply by 600 because that gives us the total number of tins in the small boxes and the total number of tins in the large boxes, because we've multiplied it up to include all 3,000 tins. Next, we need to divide the total number of tins in small boxes by the number of tins in a small box, which is 6. So that leaves us with 200. And then we need to do the same for the large boxes, but remember there's 20 tins in a large box. So we do 1,800 divided by 20, which is 90. So we have a ratio of 200 to 90, which means in total there's 290 boxes. So the proportion of large boxes in our collection is going to be 90 over 290 times 100 to turn it into a percentage. This is 31.0% to 3 significant figures, which means that Carlo is incorrect. 31.0% of the boxes filled with tins are large, which is more than 30%. Complete the table of values for y equals 5 minus x cubed. So we fill in our table and we end up with y is 13 when x is minus 2, y is 5 when x is 0, y is 4 when x is 1, and y is minus 3 when x is 2. If you're not sure, you can use a table in your calculator and this will make your life a lot easier because you just plug in the equation, plug in the values of x and you'll get the values of y coming out. On the grid below, draw the graph of y equals 5 minus x cubed for values of x from minus 2 to 2. So we just plot our points and then we join them up with a curve and that gives us our final answer. Work out the value of x, give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. So SOHCAHTOA is how we remember sine, cos and tan, and we can see that sine 34 is going to be x over 178. So 178 times sine 34 is going to be x, which is 99.536, so to 1 decimal place that's going to be 99.5. Moving on, find 2a minus 3b as a column vector. So the first thing I did is I figured out what 2a is, and that is going to be 6 and 8, and 3b is going to be 15 and minus 6. So then we need to do 2a minus 3b, and that leaves us with 6 minus 15 and 8 plus 6, which simplifies to minus 9, 14, which is our final answer. The diagram shows a right-angled triangle and a quarter circle. The right-angled triangle ABC has angle ABC 90, and the quarter circle has a centre C and radius CB. Work out the area of the quarter circle, give your answer correct to 3 significant figures, you must show all your working. So Pythagoras' theorem is a squared plus b squared is c squared, and this implies that c squared minus b squared is a squared, and therefore the square root of c squared minus b squared is a. If we use that in our example here, we can see 9 squared minus 6 squared is CB squared, because 9 is the hypotenuse. So then 81 minus 36 all square rooted is going to be CB. This is the square root of 45, which simplifies to 3 root 5, and that is going to be our radius of our quarter circle, which is 6.71 metres to 3 significant figures. Then we have our quarter circle, so we do 90 degrees divided by 360, which is the quarter, and then times pi r squared, because that is our area of the circle. So we have 90 over 360 times pi times 3 root 5 all squared, because 3 root 5 is our radius, and it's more accurate than using 6.71. This simplifies to 45 over 4 pi, which is the same as 35.3 metres squared to 3 significant figures, and that is our final answer. Tariq buys a laptop. He gets a discount of 5% off the normal price. Tariq pays £551 for the laptop. Work out the normal price of the laptop. So because we've had a 5% discount, this is the same as multiplying by 0.95, because we've taken off 5%. So we have x times 0.95, where x is the original price, and that is £551. Then we divide 551 by 0.95 to get the original price, which is £580. Moving on, Joan invests £6,000 in a savings account. The savings account pays compound interest at a rate of 2.4% for the first year and 1.7% for each extra year. Work out the value of Joan's investment at the end of 3 years. So we start off with £6,000 because that's the initial sum. Then we increase by 2.4% the following year, and then 1.7% for the next 2 years, because it's only 2.4% for the first year and 1.7% for each of the extra years. So when we write these as multiples, we can have 1.024 for the first one and 1.017 for the other two. So to figure out what we have after the first year, we do 6,000 times 1.024, which is 6,144, and then we multiply 6,144 by 1.017 squared, because we're looking at compound interest over those 2 years. That gives us 6,354.671616, and then if we round that to the nearest penny, we end up with £6,354.67. Aisha recorded the height in centimetres of some girls. She used her results to work out the information in this table. Aisha drew this box plot for the information in the table. The box plot is not fully correct. Write down the 2 things Aisha should do to make the box plot fully correct. So we're given in the table the least height, the lower quartile, the interquartile range, the median and the range. So what we can see if we look at the diagram is that the median is in the wrong place. So we can see that Aisha should draw the median at 162 centimetres and not 161 centimetres. Then I had a look at what the upper quartile was, and that's 154 plus 17, which is 171. In her box plot, though, she's drawn the upper quartile at 172 centimetres, so therefore Aisha should draw the upper quartile at 171 centimetres, not 172 centimetres, to make sure the interquartile range is correct. Simplify 1 over m squared to the power of 0. This is just 1. Then simplify 8x minus 4 over x minus 4 squared. When we simplify the x minus 4 terms, we end up with 8 over x minus 4. Simplify 3n to the power of 4 w squared all to the power of 3. So 3 cubed times n to the 4 cubed times y squared cubed is the same thing as what we had in the original question. 3 cubed is 27, and n to the power of 4 all cubed is the same as n to the power of 12 as we multiply the 2 indices. And then the same is true of w, where we have 2 times 3, which is 6, so we end up with w to the power of 6. So our final answer is 27, n to the power of 12, and w to the power of 6. Jack is in a restaurant. There are 5 starters, 8 main courses and some desserts on the menu. Jack is going to choose 1 starter, 1 main and 1 dessert. He says there are 240 ways that he can choose his starter, his main course and his dessert. Could Jack be correct? You must show how you got your answer. So there's 240 ways that this can be done, and we're told there's 5 starters and 8 main courses. So we do 240 divided by 5 and 8, and that gives us 6. So therefore, the answer is yes, because if there are 6 desserts on the menu, there are 240 ways to choose the menu. The graph gives information about the volume v litres of petrol in the tank of Jim's car after it has travelled a distance of d kilometres. Find the gradient of the graph. So we look at the starting value, which is 27, and to find the gradient, we need to do the change in y over the change in x. We look at the final value, and that's 0, and we subtract 27, the initial value, for our change in y. For the change in x, we do our final value of 300 kilometres minus 0 at the beginning, so we end up with minus 27 over 300, which is minus 9 over 100, which simplifies to minus 0.09. Interpret what the gradient of the graph represents. I said the consumption of petrol in litres for a given distance in kilometres with units of litres per kilometre. The key thing here is we're talking about the rate of consumption of petrol per unit distance. Here is triangle ABC. Work out the length of AB, give your answer correct to one decimal place. So we're given CB and we're given two angles, so we can use the sine rule to find our answer. First and foremost though, we're going to do 180 minus 34 minus 26 to find 120 degrees, which is the angle CAB. Then we can use the sine rule, so we have sine 120 over 23.8, and that is equal to sine 34 over AB. When we rearrange this, we can see AB is sine 34 times 23.8 divided by sine 120, and this is 15.367 centimetres, which simplifies to 15.4 centimetres to one decimal place. Here are two squares, A and B. The length of each side of square B is 4 centimetres greater than the length of each side of square A. The area of square B is 70 centimetres squared greater than the area of square A. Find the area of square B and give your answer correct to three significant figures and show all your working. So I'm going to use little a and little b to represent each of the square's side lengths. So B is equal to A plus 4, which implies that A is B minus 4, okay? B squared, which is the area of B, is equal to A squared plus 70, because that's what we're told in the question. So B squared is equal to B minus 4 squared plus 70 when we substitute A as B minus 4 from our first equation. Then we get B squared is equal to B squared minus 8B plus 16 plus 70. The B squared terms cancel and we end up with 8B equals 86 when we add 8B to both sides. Divide that by 8 and we get B is equal to 10.75, and therefore B squared, which is the area of B, is 115.5625, which simplifies to 116 centimetres squared to three significant figures. Describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. So what we do for these questions is we join up the corners of either shape, making sure that they are corresponding to each one. So when we do that, we can see they all pass through the point 1, 1, which is going to be our centre of enlargement. But the scale factor for our centre of enlargement is actually going to be negative because we've inversed the shape. So we see that we go from bottom to top and we have 2 as our length. And then if we go from bottom to top, but this time in the inverse, we have minus 3. So the final shape has minus 3 and the starting shape has 2. So the scale factor is minus 3 over 2, which is minus 1.5. So that means we have an enlargement with centre of enlargement 1, 1 and scale factor minus 1.5. Here are the first 5 terms of a quadratic sequence. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of this sequence. So we start off with our sequence of 10, 21, 38, 61 and 90, and we find the additions between each of them. Then we find the sum of the sums, which is 6. And this tells us that it is in fact a quadratic and will typically get you a mark in a question. So we write out n squared and we have 1, 4, 9, 16 and 25. And then we can see how close we can get to each of the terms that we need in our sequence. So we multiply by 3 and we get 3, 12, 27, 48 and 75. So after we've done that, we can see we have plus 7, plus 9, plus 11, plus 13 and plus 15 for each of our different numbers. And as you can see, the amount that we need to get to for our sequence is actually increasing each time, which means we need to add a factor of n to our quadratic. So I did 3n squared plus 2n, which is 5, 16, 33, 56 and 85, and then I had another look at the difference with our sequence, and in this case it was just plus 5 for all of them, so I just need to add 5 to our quadratic, and then that will be my final answer, which is 3n squared plus 2n plus 5. Write down the coordinates of the turning point on the graph of y equals x plus 12 squared minus 7. So here they've completed the square, which means our turning point is going to be when x is minus 12 and when y is minus 7. So minus 12 minus 7 is our answer. Diagram represents a solid cone. The cone has base diameter of 20 centimetres and a slant height of 25 centimetres. A circle is drawn around the surface of the cone at a slant height of 10 centimetres above the base. The curved surface of the cone above the circle is painted grey. Work out the area of the curved surface of the cone that is not painted grey. Give your answer as a multiple of pi. You must show all your working. So we've been given the diameter, so we need to find the radius in order to use our equation. So we do the radius, which is 20 divided by 2, which is 10 centimetres. Then we can figure out the curved surface area of the entire cone by doing pi times 10 times 25, because 25 is the total slant height of the cone. That gives us 250 pi, and then we can move on. 25 minus 10 is 15, and this is the slant height of the cone that's painted grey. So if we take a cross-section of the entire cone, we end up with the triangle that you see here. We have 25 centimetres as our hypotenuse and 10 centimetres as our radius. We use SOHCAHTOA to remember our sine, cos and tan, and as we can see here, sine theta, where theta is the angle at the top, sine theta is equal to 10 over 25. Therefore, inverse sine of 10 over 25 is going to be theta, which is 23.6 degrees. Now that we have the angle, we can use similar triangles to find the radius of the cone that's coloured grey. So we find a cross section of this where the slant height is 15, so that's our hypotenuse, and we want to find the radius, so we put that as R2. Using 23.6 degrees as our angle, we can use sine of 23.6 is equal to R2 over 15. This implies that 15 times sine 23.6 is R2, and therefore R2 is going to be 6 centimetres. So now that we have the radius, we can figure out the surface area of the cone using our equation pi RL. So we do pi times 6 times 15, and that is 90 pi, which is the curved surface area of the painted grey cone. Then we do 250 pi, which is the total curved surface area of the cone, minus 90, which is the curved surface area of the grey cone, to give us the surface area of the cone that's not painted grey, and this is 160 pi, which is our final answer. A hot air balloon is descending. The height of the balloon n minutes after it starts to descend is hn meters. The height of the balloon n plus 1 minutes after it starts to descend, hn plus 1 meters, is given by the following equation. The balloon starts to descend from a height of 1200 metres at 9:15. At 9:16, the height of the balloon is 1040 metres. Work out the height of the balloon at 9:18. So we can see that to get from 9:15 to 9:18, we've got 3 minutes. The starting height is 1200 metres, and we're told that the next height is 1040 metres, so we can use this in our equation where we have k times 1200, the starting height, plus 20. We can use this to find k, so we have 1020 is equal to 1200k. Then we divide both sides by 1200 to get 1020 over 1200, and this simplifies to 17 over 20, which is 0.85 for our value of k. Then we use this in the next equation, where we now have 1040 instead of hn plus 1. So we do 0.85 times 1040 plus 20, and that gives us 904. And then we need to do it one more time to find the height at 9:18. So we do 0.85 times 904 plus 20, which is 788.4 metres. There are only red sweets and yellow sweets in a bag. There are n red sweets in the bag. There are 8 yellow sweets in the bag. Sajid is going to take at random a sweet from the bag and eat it. He says that the probability that the sweet will be red is 7/10. Show why the probability cannot be 7/10. So let's say that n over n plus 8 is equal to 7 over 10. Because remember, there's n red sweets in the bag, and then there's going to be n plus 8 sweets in total, and this is going to be 7 over 10, and we're going to assume that it's true for now. Therefore, 10n is going to be equal to 7n plus 8 when we multiply both to release the fractions. Then we have 10n is equal to 7n plus 56, and therefore 3n is 56. Then we divide both sides by 3, and we see that n is 56 over 3, which is 18.6 recurring. Since we've shown that n is not a whole number, that shows that the probability cannot be 7/10. After Sajid has taken the first sweet from the bag and eaten it, he's going to take at random a second sweet from the bag. Given that the probability that both the sweets he takes will be red is 3/5, work out the number of red sweets in the bag. You must show all your working. So the ratio of red to yellow sweets is n to 8. We can draw out a probability tree as you can see here. The probability of it being red in the first instance is n over n plus 8, and the probability of it being yellow in the first instance is 8 over n plus 8. Then we can look at the other branches of the diagram. So if he's already eaten one of the red sweets, you're going to have n minus 1 red sweets left and n plus 7 total sweets. There's still going to be 8 yellow sweets, so the probability of it being yellow at this stage is 8 over n plus 7, because remember there's still one less sweet because he's eaten a red one already. Then if we look at the other part of the diagram, there's going to be n over n plus 7 red sweets after he's eaten one yellow, because remember the number of sweets has gone down by 1, but there's still n red sweets. And then if we look at the final branch, we're going to see that it's 7 over n plus 7, because he's eaten one yellow sweet, so there's going to be 7 left, and therefore there's going to be n plus 7 total sweets left over. We're told that the probability that both the sweets he takes will be red is 3/5, so we can look at these two branches. We do n over n plus 8 times n minus 1 over n plus 7 is equal to 3/5. When we write this as a single fraction, we end up with n minus 1 over n plus 8 times n plus 7 is equal to 3/5, and then we can start simplifying. So we have 5n times n minus 1 when we multiply both sides by 5, and then we multiply both sides by n plus 8, n plus 7, to give us 3n plus 8, n plus 7 on the right hand side. Then we can expand, and we have 5n squared minus 5n is equal to 3n squared plus 15n plus 56, and this becomes 3n squared plus 45n plus 168. Then we can simplify, and we end up with 2n squared minus 50n minus 168 equals 0, and then we divide both sides by 2, so we get n squared minus 25n minus 84 is equal to 0. Then we can use the quadratic equation, so we do minus 25 plus or minus the square root of minus 25 squared minus 4 times 1 times minus 84 all over 2 times 1. This gives us 25 plus or minus 31 over 2, so therefore n is going to be 28, or it's going to be minus 3. Because we know n is greater than 0, that means n has to be 28, so 28 is our final answer. The graph of the curve with equation y equals fx is shown on the grid below. On the grid above, sketch the graph of the curve with equation y equals f minus x. So this is going to be a reflection in the y-axis. So the first thing we do is plot the points that are going to be a reflection in the y-axis. This gives us 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 0 and 4, 2. Then we need to draw the curve reflected in the y-axis, as you can see here. The curve C with equation y equals 5 plus 2x minus x squared is transformed by a translation to give the curve S such that the point 1, 6 on C is mapped to the point 4, 6 on S. Find an equation for S. So we know y is equal to 5 plus 2x minus x squared, and we've moved 3 to the right. In order to perform the translation of moving 3 to the right, we need to substitute x for x minus 3. So when we do this in our equation, we end up with y is equal to 5 plus 2x minus 3 minus x minus 3 squared. This expands to 5 plus 2x minus 6 minus x squared minus 6x plus 9. This becomes minus 1 plus 2x minus x squared plus 6x minus 9, and that is minus 10 plus 8x minus x squared, which is going to be our final answer of y equals minus 10 plus 8x minus x squared. C is a circle with centre the origin. A tangent to C passes through the points minus 20, 0 and 0, 10. Work out an equation of C. You must show all your working. We start off by drawing our diagram, and we know that the circle goes around the origin, and roughly speaking we've got this line that goes from minus 20, 0 to 0, 10. When we draw out this triangle, we end up with what you can see here, and we know that the base is going to be 20 and the height is going to be 10. The gradient of this line is therefore going to be 10 over 20, because that's the change in y over the change in x, and that is a half. The y-intercept is 10, because we're told it passes through the point 0, 10, which means the equation for this line is y is equal to half x plus 10. The perpendicular gradient is going to be the negative reciprocal of a half, which is minus 2. We know that this line is going to be the radius, and that the radius passes through the point 0, 0, so therefore the y-intercept is going to be 0, which means the line for our radius is going to be y equals minus 2x. So now we're going to let minus 2x equal half x plus 10, because this is going to be the point where the circle intersects with both lines, okay? So we have minus 2x equals a half x plus 10. We multiply both sides by 2, and that is minus 4x is equal to x plus 20. Minus 20 is equal to 5x, so therefore x is equal to minus 4, and therefore y is equal to 8 when we substitute into our equation for y equals minus 2x. So as you can see on this graph here, minus 4, 8 is going to be the point where all of these lines meet. Next we can draw the triangle that represents what you can see here. So we've got minus 4, 8 on the top, minus 4, 0 will be the bottom corner for a right angle triangle, and 0, 0 is going to be our bottom right corner. We can see that the height is minus 8 and the base is plus 4. And to find the radius, we can use Pythagoras' theorem, where we have r squared is equal to 8 squared plus 4 squared. R is therefore going to be the square root of 64 plus 16, which is the square root of 80, and that is the same as 4 root 5. The equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared, where the centre is at the origin, and we know that r squared is going to be 80 from the equations we've just used. So x squared plus y squared equals 80 is going to be the equation of the circle, and our final answer. Okay, that is paper 2H from 2020 all done. If you'd like to see any more past paper videos, make sure to hit the links here, and if you need a bit of extra help with your maths, make sure to hit the link in the description, because I'll be offering online group maths tutoring classes from the 24th of June, so if you need a bit of extra help, I will see you there. If you'd like to see any more videos, hit the links, and I will see you in the next one.